Assalamu alaikum and welcome to the post show on Salam Media today. A very decisive day, a decisive victory, I would believe, in terms of international law, the respect for human life, for humanity, and of course, a reaffirmation, maybe, of the viability of international instruments such as the International Court of Justice, and we have to see what the ICC comes up with, and of course the actors, nation states in the United Nations and the United Nations Security Council. But before we get into the full discussion, I think it's important for us to cross over to Aisha Wahed, who is the legal reporter for Salam Media. She's at The Hague, and I think that Aisha has some interesting information to share with us. But more specifically, Aisha, let's start with the ambience, the feeling, the mood. What is it like there at The Hague?
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. So coming live from just outside Peace Palace, it's a very, very, I think, positive atmosphere, including from the Minister, Naledi Pandor. You know, she seems to think that this is a really big win for us. So do the Palestinians. They're still screaming for ceasefire. But it seems that the Minister and even the Palestinian delegation here have all taken the interim ruling or the interim, measures put in place as a call for a ceasefire. The minister had said, you can't have humanitarian aid going in, you can't stop the aggression and the killing of Palestinians without a ceasefire. And they've interpreted it as a big win that the overwhelming majority of the judges have asked for Israel to stop their aggression on Gaza, on Palestine, and on the people, and to submit a report. And the minister has also highlighted that it's really important that the call for a report is, while Israel was asked to submit a report so that we can ensure that these measures are put in place within the next month, and it puts a lot of international pressure on them to immediately stop the aggression against the people in Gaza. So that's the feel here. Everybody is feeling that it was a big win for South Africa, and it's really positive on the side.
And I think, Aisha, besides just the legal and the technicalities of the judgment, morally, for the first time, I think the Palestinians and the underdog, which is the global South, has been elevated, because we've always been told how to act, how to feel our pain, how to behave, how to respond, and that we have absolutely no right to question our oppressor. And I think part of that was very clear in the way in which Israel presented its case at the ICJ, as if to say, who is the South Africa? I mean, like what, when they went to standing, it was basically a racist argument, as if to say, who are these black people, these nobodies who can come and tell us what to do and what not to do? So morally, besides it being a political and a legal win, it's a model win. And do you find that this is being articulated there at the Hague? Aisha? I think we're having difficulty crossing over, or maybe the signal is lost. However, we have our first guest, and I would like to introduce. Hi, is that Miko?
Hi, yes, how are you?
I'm good, thanks. And you, Miko, you look a lot older than when I saw you the last time. I think the Gazan genocide has probably taken its toll on you as well.
Toll on everybody, yes.
I remember when you came to South Africa for the first time and you presented your book. That time it was a young Miko Pellet, and you were so dynamic. I think you were one of the strongest forces that reshaped my way of thinking about things and how to not feel hopeless and to keep on with the struggle to lift the Palestinians and to seek justice for the Palestinian people. But from your side, it must have been especially difficult, because you are right in the belly of the beast, firstly, and secondly, the lobby there is so much stronger. So how do you feel today?
Well, I've been I regularly watch Riyad Musa, the South African comedian.
Yes.
And he said this morning or yesterday, he said that the court ruling will demonstrate whether or not international law and human rights apply to all people or just to some people. And I'm afraid to say that I think a ruling is a huge disappointment. I think it shows that the world is interested in rights and international law only for some people. The ruling is full of contradictions. It's inconclusive. And I mean, for example, just to read as an example, the court orders Israel to take measures to prevent acts of genocide. What does that mean? Israel does not think it's committing acts of genocide, so why would it stop? The court says Israel must prevent and punish incitement. Who's going to prevent and punish when it's the authorities? The state is engaged in incitement. The state is engaged in genocide. It's not like there's a state and then there are some people who are engaging in genocide. A state with authorities, with a rule of law, and then other people are engaging in incitement. The president of the state of Israel, the prime minister of the state of Israel, ministers across the board, right, left, center, everybody across the political spectrum in Israel is engaged in incitement and support of the genocide. I will take it one step further. The fact that this came out, this very, what I believe is a weak ruling, and I'm not a jurist, okay, I'm just reading it and I see it, but it's a weak ruling, and the fact that they did not even demand an immediate end to the Israeli killing of Palestinians, demand an immediate end. Any Palestinian killed from this point on, their blood is on the court's hand. Their blood is on the court's hand. This is a weak ruling. It's inconclusive. It's full of contradictions. And they want Israel to come back in a month, to report and say, how did they prevent further acts of genocide? What are they talking about? 25,000 innocent civilians have been butchered in front of the entire world, and they don't have enough evidence to at least demand that Israel immediately cease the killing, stop the killing, and immediately allow the humanitarian aid. I mean, this is ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. I'm sorry, I don't share the. I know a lot of people are
Miko, it can go two ways, because I just want you to think about it this way. Yes, I agree with all the points that you have put forward. But the first thing is that it's a moral win, in the sense that it recognizes that Israel is committing genocide. So firstly, that already blows all the arguments out of the water, right? With regards any of the genocide complicit states, Western-backed, European-backed states who are backing Israel. So it already puts a stranglehold on them. That's the first thing. The second thing is that the ruling of the ICJ, like both you and I are not law experts, and we're not, totally versed in the UN, but I am of the understanding that the ICJ ruling does not work independent of any other actions by nation states or even any other instruments of the international state system. So in other words, if states recognize within the next few days that Israel is contravening according to their interpretation of the judgment, then the United Nations General Assembly can call an immediate meeting again, and there can be resolutions put forward. And states on their own, based on the judgment of the ICJ, can now take measures, or they can take decisions. They can even implement a military response.
Well, first of all, I don't see where they recognize that Israel is engaged in genocide. They're saying that Israel needs to prevent acts of genocide. Well, asking the criminal to prevent acts of, to monitor itself, to police itself, and to stop acting in a criminal way is ridiculous. I would understand if they said, the United States Navy Sixth Fleet is in the Mediterranean, and they're ordering, not that they can order that, but the Sixth Fleet needs to come in and impose a no-fly zone over Gaza. That I can understand. The Sixth Fleet, the United States Navy should immediately provide urgent humanitarian aid to Gaza, or other international actors. It doesn't have to be, I'm just using that as an example. Okay, now we're talking about something. This is nothing. This doesn't say anything. There's no room here for any action, because there's nothing conclusive here. They're asking the criminal to police itself. It's absurd. There are no international actors that are enforcing anything against Israel. And the South African case was very clear. They showed genocide and they showed intent, which is of course the hardest part to prove, which is the most difficult part in the argument for genocide, is the intent, is the fact that you have to show intent for it to be genocide. And the South African petition shows intent. And anybody who's been paying attention can see intent, because if the president of the state demonstrates it with his words, and the military demonstrates it with its actions, and you have a 75-year history before the actions that we're discussing right now, then there's clearly intent. So there's intent, and there's acts, and there's genocide, and it's been shown very clearly. And the best they can come up with is that Israel must allow. It's saying Israel must allow, not these humanitarian aid will be brought in spite of what Israel says or thinks. It will be imposed on Israel. No, they're saying Israel must allow. Israel will not allow. Oops, did I lose you?
I'm here.
Okay. Yeah, so Israel must allow. Israel has to be out of the question here. Israel should not be a player here. This should be imposed. Humanitarian aid should be brought in spite of Israel. Israel should have no say in whether or not humanitarian aid comes in. Israel should not be a player here anymore. You know, the court obliges Israel to take more measures to protect Palestinians. When has Israel taken measures to protect Palestinians? You know what I'm saying? The court is putting everything on the criminal in order to police itself to change its actions. This is ridiculous. This is absolutely absurd, especially if the Africans made such a clear, conclusive case for genocide.
No, I agree with you there again, but I'm just trying to think about what is the intention maybe behind the court, and this is to make it extremely difficult for Israel not to get out of it, but also it's to lock it into a case which, when the genocide case is going to come forward, and if Israel does not abide by these regulations or whatever without being policed, and they can say, we've given you ample opportunity, ample time, whatever, to fix, maybe because the counter argument came after the case was presented that no, this one said this, it was not meant like that, it was not the Warm Road decision, this is not what Israel intended, etc. So now, and we know, me and you know, there's no good faith in the path of Israel, but just for the benefit of the doubt, that they say that if there is some good faith on Israel's part, then Israel can show it now. More specifically, I think what is crucial and I find very good is that the court has placed the entire burden on Israel, including the delivery of services, the fixing of infrastructure in the past. Whenever Israel bombed Gaza and caused damage in Palestine, it was the Arab states that had to pick up the pieces, and the European Union and whatever was sending in money and aid to try and rebuild, to fix things up. Now the court is saying, Israel, this is your responsibility. So the cost of the damages is now on Israel.
Look, the law exists. Everything that Israel has done is a violation of laws that already exist. So repeating the law and saying that Israel needs to abide by the law is not a serious ruling by a court, because it's clear that Israel has no interest in abiding by the law, and there's no motivation for Israel to abide by the law because there are no consequences for breaking the law. So the ruling of the court has done nothing. It changed nothing. It only said Israel needs to not do the things it's doing. Well, why would it stop? Why should Israel stop if tomorrow, Israel is killing hundreds every day? Never mind the famine and the disease and the horrors and the injured tens of thousands that are going to die, besides the ones that are directly killed. This is an emergency. This is an emergency. They're treating this like this is some kind of a legal theory. There's no legal theory here. Israel has been violating every single law, international law, on a regular basis, and doing it knowingly. And now to bring it back to Israel and say, you have to police yourself, you have to allow this, they're not going to allow. If they were going to, they should have already allowed it. The court decision should be enforcing the law and saying, this is going to happen right now, whether you like it or not. That's the way it is. It's genocide, and here are the actions that we are going to take as the international community. Okay,
but Miko, the court was not called to pronounce on genocide. It's just plausible as to whether what South Africa is indicating is that it is plausible to say that it is genocide. So the court had to act within its own scope for these provisions, right? So it can't say that it's genocide. That's the first thing. The second thing is that I agree with you. everything that you say. But you tell me, if the ruling was exactly as you say it was, would that have made a difference? Would Israel stop?
No, but it would have given license for more countries to act accordingly. It would change the game. It would change the story. Now Israel has a month to come back with the same arguments, saying it has never been engaged in genocide, it is allowing humanitarian aid, or it cannot allow humanitarian aid because the Palestinian fighters are going to use it and then keep fighting, and on and on and on and on, and dragging this forever. At least they could have come up with an interim ruling that made a difference, that was binding somehow, that demanded an immediate end to the killing and the fighting, an immediate end to the killing, an immediate unconditional end to the killing, immediate. Now, would Israel abide? Probably not. But now you have got the call to act by other players. But they didn't even demand that Israel stop shooting. They didn't demand that Israel stop killing. It's not even there. At least as I read it, it's saying Israel needs to allow humanitarian aid. The humanitarian aid needs to come in regardless of what Israel thinks or doesn't say or allow or doesn't allow. Israel's jurisdiction should be completely taken out of the equation here. And you do this by using the legal measures that, of course, I mean, their scope is limited, but use the maximum of the authority that you do have as a court to at least make a statement and make it clear that the killing must stop immediately until they can decide on whether or not in genocide. Fine, but at least stop the killing right now. And again, like I said, I'm not a jurist, but to me, this is weak, inconclusive, and it's full of contradictions. And again, putting the responsibility on the criminal to police itself and stop committing crimes this late in the game. If they did this 75 years ago, after the ethnic cleansing of 1948 and the massacres that took place then, they say, fine, we're giving the state of Israel a chance, a few years to show, that it's not a criminal, fine. But we're talking about a 75-year history of a state that is engaged in genocide. We're not talking about something that we don't know. We're not talking that we have history books upon history books that document this genocide. We've got, and I'm talking about pre-October 7, never mind what happened in Gaza after October 7. We've got assaults on Gaza with innocent civilians, thousands being murdered on a regular basis. This is nothing new. So to pretend like this is isolated and we're only going to monitor this and we're going to give them another chance, one more month, this is irresponsible. This is criminal.
It is totally irresponsible and criminal, but I feel that it's not a hopeless case altogether, because we do know that the judgment means that Israel will lose all moral standing. As the judgment has come in now, I mean, it's obvious. Israel will lose much support. Already the international community, and when I say international community, I'm not meaning it in terms of how the West and Biden uses it, but I'm talking about the majority of the states of the world are already supporting the Palestinian case and supporting South Africa. So, and it's the few tag-alongs that have to now come on and decide where their morality lies, like the European states. All of these will have to start making a decision, because there certainly is going to be a call for the implementation of sanctions against Israel. And I'm not doubting that should this escalate, that there will be a call for military action against Israel if they don't stop, which will give them more credibility, because there is then this argument that Israel claims to be this moral argument. Israel claims that there is no genocide, but the court has said X, Y, and Z. But Israel has now directly gone, although presenting the case that he disagreed, the court found against Israel. And when the court gave Israel an instruction, Israel disagreed again. That looks very bad on Israel's side.
I've been doing a lot of interviews since October 7th, as you can imagine. The South African media is the only media in Africa that stands and asks questions in the context of, Palestinians have rights. Every other station I've done throughout all of Africa, I'm talking about sub-Saharan Africa, has been 100% support for Israel's actions. 100% support for Israel's actions, and usually there's a panel with 3 experts who support Israel's massacres and genocide, and then there's me. Israel has over 40 diplomatic missions in Africa. Israel is courting Malaysia and Indonesia. In Pakistan, I understand you cannot even protest to support Palestinians in Gaza right now. Israel has got a stronghold on the international community. The court was the only place where there could have been hope to say This has to end. Fine, they can't rule with this genocide. They're not going to rule on anything large right now. But at least end the fighting, end the shooting, and I don't know to call it fighting. I want to call the massacres. At least create something. The international community has no, and I'm not talking about the international community in terms of Biden and UK and the US and Western Europe. I'm talking about the larger international community. I'm talking about BRICS. I'm talking about the African states, the other Muslim countries. Israel has a stronghold on it, and I think what we saw is a lack of desire by the court to act in a way that would take Israel out of the Israeli judgment and Israeli decisions out of the equation. They've already proven that they do not deserve a seat at the table. You know what I mean? They need to be to. They need to be talked to. They can't be be allowed to try to mend their ways. We're beyond that right now. And to me, this is a huge disappointment. So I again, like I said, I don't share the excitement and the enthusiasm that many people, and I've been talking to people already, all morning about this. I think this is, they could have done much better. And I think it's very disappointing, not to say criminal, that the court did not act with force.
And I agree that they could have done better, but I'm seeing a different picture here, which I think has not become really mainstream as yet. And that is the way in which the pieces of the chessboard have been moving with regards BRICS Plus. And so, this has largely been excluded from the equation and from the analysis. And in spite of what you might say of Israel's presence in Malaysia or Indonesia, etc., there is a shift in geopolitics. There certainly is a shift and a realignment of countries, specifically Muslim majority countries, Asian countries, and the BRICS formation. And you can see, if you follow from the start, right from the start, from the time that South Africa before South Africa took the case, what was happening immediately after Israel's, continuous genocide against the Palestinians, because the genocide did not begin on the 7th of October. It's been an ongoing genocide. You can see that, if you follow all of those footprints, you can see something bigger was happening. And that is my firm belief and analysis. Where I know you're right in the belly and you're stuck and listening to all of that. But follow the people also, Miko. Don't you see how the people of the world have changed? The counter arguments, the pushbacks, despite the heavy repression, despite the banning of protests or speaking out, etc. People are really coming together to say, I'm sorry, we don't buy this anymore. And also, what many people were counting and punting, I think, in the days before the verdict, they said that the American Judge Donoghue would not vote in favor of Palestine. She voted in every single motion. She was not the dissenting voice. The dissenting voice was the Israeli and the Ugandan. So that alone tells you that there is certainly a shift. There is a breakdown in the so-called unity of the Israeli alliance. And are you not seeing that?
I'm not seeing that. No, I don't see that at all. There are protests, but there's no shift at all that I can see in the halls of power anywhere around the world. Yes, protests. We always see protests after Palestinians are being massacred, but we don't see actions to prevent the next massacre. Protest is a natural, it's an actual, response to when we see something terrible, we go out and we protest. What we don't see is any action being taken to prevent the next event. And we know the next one is coming and we know things are going to get worse. Let me read another piece here for you from the kind of the recap. They're saying the court obliges Israel to take more measures to protect Palestinians. Like I said, Israel has never taken measures to protect Palestinians. There's no one guaranteeing the safety and security of Palestinians at all, anywhere, certainly not the Israeli authorities. And then it says, the court did not order Israel to end military operations in Gaza. Why not? Why in the world did they not order them to stop military operations in Gaza, at least for a month, at least until the court can gather all the information if it needs, more time? Why not? This is the problem. The problem is that one of the problems is that we've gotten used to always accepting the bare minimum when it comes to Palestinians. We're always very pleased when Palestinians are given the bare minimum. The standard is too low, absolutely too low. Israel is getting away with too much for too long, and it's time to put an end to it. And I think the court missed an opportunity to put an end to it. Or a temporary end to it. The court is a huge opportunity right now.
No, certainly there is a clear distinction in the way in which it made this particular ruling and the ruling that it made in Russia, Ukraine, and even in Myanmar, where the language was far more explicit and clearly stated about the military interventions, etc. But I mean, I understand the frustration. I feel it too. However, I want to think that, there is a better plan in this. Me being Muslim, I always believe that there's a greater plan. They say, people plot in their plan and God is the best of planners. So I want to say, don't you think that the ceasefire is implied when the court said that, Israel has to act in terms of Article 2 of the Genocide Convention, which means that they must desist and cease and desist and stop from killing members of the group, causing serious bodily harm, deliberately inflicting. So they can't do the sniper, snipers can't be taking out people. They can't be attacking them when they're going to collect aid. All of these, for all of these extremely brutal, sick, psychopathic behaviors manifested by the Israeli occupation forces, well, they can't do any of this anymore, because that is what the court ruling has said. It might not have called for the full-scale stop to the military intervention and the bombing, etc. But I mean, if you look at it, they're going to drop the dumb bombs. That's a violation of the court ruling.
I think it would have been a good idea if the court actually sat to debate this in Gaza. I think they would have come up, if they themselves were in Gaza to debate this, they would have come with a very different ruling. And I think that was the next time they sit and discuss Gaza, they need to be in the Gaza Strip to decide this. And I think they will come up with a very different ruling then. The entire military operation is a violation of the Genocide Convention. So to ask them to stop a particular item here, a particular item there, is not enough. It's not going to make the difference. And to put it on Israel to stop, as opposed to placing it on the international community or other forces, other players to demand, to force Israel to stop, is not going to work. It's just not good enough. And again, I think we have to stop. And I say we, all of us, pleased with and demanding so little when it comes to Palestinian lives.
But Mika, even if the court had placed this on the international community, it would have fallen back on the US and the European allies, and they simply would not have acted. The result would be we would be back to square one, exactly as where we are. I mean, there's been no sincerity on their part either. It's not all that Israel has been acting with impunity because of the support it has received.
Right,
from the US and from European partners.
I believe this was an opportunity that was missed.
It is an opportunity that was missed, but maybe in hindsight, it might be something greater, and we can hope for that something greater.
Inshallah.
So, inshallah. Would you like to leave us with a parting comment?
Do not stop fighting for Palestine. Do not stop demanding for Palestine, and make sure that your elected official or non-elected officials, that your governments stop all connection with Israel. Kick out Israeli diplomats, stop trade with Israel, demand sanctions against the state of Israel, not next year, not next month, right now. All nations around the world need to stand with Palestine right now. That's my last call. That's the message I have to send.
Thank you. And I would like to reaffirm and echo those words, because I think ultimately the power now is with the people, and we need to exercise and capture that moment. Thank you very much, Miko, for always being there, for being the voice of the Palestinians when they truly were very much so voiceless. I remember clearly many, many years ago, more than a decade ago, you were a voice for them. So we really appreciate this, and for giving us the courage to stand up and to follow in your footsteps.
Thank you.
Thank you and goodbye.
Bye.